Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a deeply meditative and honestly pretty transformative journey about our relationship with our own bodies. I'd love to invite you to just pause for a second. Really connect with the physical vessel you're inhabiting right now. We spend so much of our time completely stuck in our heads, right? We totally disconnect from this profound wisdom that's operating just beneath the surface of our skin. So we're going to look really closely at an organ that works tirelessly for us day in and day out. It asks for so little, but it carries so much of our physical and emotional weight.
Which brings me to something I want you to really think about for a second. Have you ever swallowed your anxiety? Seriously, picture yourself sitting at the dining table, hurriedly gulping down a mouthful of food while your brain is just frantically racing over a business report. Or maybe you're scrolling through this endless, stressful news cycle on your phone, barely even chewing your food. Well, in our hyper-accelerated modern world, this has kind of just become the norm for us. We eat while we drive, we eat while we work, we eat while we worry. We are swallowing our food, and quite literally, we're swallowing our anxiety right along with it.
And in that exact moment of stress, right beneath your left rib cage, there's this flexible, pouch-like entity that's being forced to absorb all of that Russian anxiety. Usually we only really remember our stomach when it starts to complain, like through those sharp cramping pains or burning acid reflux or just that really uncomfortable bloated heaviness that demands our attention. But until that moment of pain, it's just this silent, accommodating entity bearing the absolute brunt of our modern industrial pressure, dutifully taking in everything we throw at it without a single complaint.
So let's gently challenge how we normally think about this. The old view is that the stomach is just a simple holding tank. Basically a mechanical food crusher, and that's it. But have you ever paused, put your hand over your stomach, and actually wondered why nature equipped it with an acidic environment that's harsh enough to corrode metal, yet the organ itself doesn't dissolve? Is digestion really just a dry series of biochemical reactions? Or is it actually a profound philosophical lesson on our capacity to absorb and transmute the world around us? Let's dive into the alchemical furnace within, starting with Dr. William Beaumont's fascinating discoveries. So, looking at the anatomy and physiology, the stomach is a total masterpiece of mechanical and chemical power. To really get this, we have to look back at the work of Dr. William Beaumont. He's universally known as the father of gastric physiology. His pioneering work proved that digestion isn't just things passively rotting away inside us. No, it's this exquisite dynamic process of dissolution and transmutation. And as he discovered, the stomach's physical power is just immense. It's built from three incredibly robust, crisscrossing layers of smooth muscle. You've got the longitudinal, the circular, and the oblique muscles. The second food arrives, the stomach kicks off this fierce, rhythmic, contracting dance called peristalsis. It's constantly churning and grinding to break down what we just ate. And through this intense, contracting dance, those coarse, chewed-up chunks of food are transformed into a smooth, liquid mixture called chyme. Think of it like this. Raw food descends into your stomach like rough, unrefined ore, just waiting to be processed by this incredibly intelligent system. The stomach takes those raw, chaotic materials from the outside world and begins the really heavy lifting of preparing them to literally become part of your living cells.
But the true miracle is actually happening within the stomach lining itself, where millions of gastric glands are silently pumping out hydrochloric acid. And get this, it's sitting at an extremely harsh pH ranging from 1.5 to 2.0. That concentration is wild. It's powerful enough to dissolve the tough structural bonds of food and absolutely obliterate invading foreign bacteria to keep you safe. It is a harsh, uncompromising environment built for ultimate breakdown. Now, to intuitively grasp the real beauty of this system, I love looking at it through this incredibly vivid philosophical metaphor. Imagine your stomach isn't just a machine, but an ancient alchemical furnace managed by a wise internal Taoist master. That raw food we eat, that's the unrefined ore, and the hydrochloric acid is the sacred inner fire, lit purposely to melt away all impurities, destroy what doesn't serve us, and refine the raw materials of the earth into something totally extraordinary.
But here's the catch. A fire that hot would normally completely destroy whatever container it's in, right? Well, to keep from consuming itself, the stomach's mucosal cells are continuously secreting this alkaline-rich mucus layer made up by carbonate. It acts as this resilient, protective fortress woven from water and wisdom. It literally keeps the furnace from burning itself to ash, allowing that sacred fire to safely crystallize the pure life elixir, the refined energy that ultimately sustains your entire bodily kingdom. It is just a perfect, beautiful balance of destruction and protection. Okay, moving on to the anatomy of the gut-brain axis, specifically looking at the emotional core. Beyond all the biochemical stuff, if we look at the stomach through the lens of depth psychology and energetic medicine, there is a deeply moving message here. In a lot of traditions, the stomach is tied directly to the solar plexus chakra. That's the energetic center of our willpower, our self-esteem, and our literal capacity to digest our life experiences. Because your stomach shares this hypersensitive, bidirectional neural connection with your brain via the gut-brain axis, it is the most honest mirror reflecting exactly how you receive life. When you can't digest a psychological shock, or maybe a harsh piece of criticism at work, or just a lingering fear about the future, your brain instantly fires signals downwards. Your stomach is reacting in real time to your mind's inability to process reality. And this triggers a very specific and frankly damaging biological chain reaction when modern industrial pressure forces us to eat in a state of panic or anger. When you eat while stressed, boom, you enter fight or flight mode. This instantly inhibits the vagus nerve, which is like the superhighway of your gut-brain axis. Blood flow to the stomach is drastically reduced. That brilliant protective mucus layer we talked about, it thins out, and suddenly the acid begins to actually corrode your own mucosal cells. Your mental stress is literally translating into physical self-destruction.
So the takeaway here is absolutely crucial. We so often blame chronic stomach issues, ulcers, and reflux entirely on physical factors, like H. pylori bacteria. And sure, that plays a role. But the reality is that so many individuals are suffering from these chronic issues because they're forcing this organ to chew on mental stress. They're accumulating this deep hunger for peace within their souls, and the stomach is left trying to digest the anxiety that the mind simply refuses to let go of.
The stomach uses its own physical pain to remind you of a grand life lesson. The burning, the cramping, those are the muffled cries of your own body trying to tell you something vital. The lesson is that true nourishment means protecting our minds as fiercely as our bodies. You don't just need to be careful about what enters your mouth. You absolutely must learn to filter and reject the toxic energies, the stressful news, and the anxieties that are constantly pouring into your mind.
Let's transition into how we can actually fix this with a sacred digestion ritual aimed at healing the gut-brain connection.
Understanding this incredibly sacred design means we have to completely change how we treat our stomach. We have to stop treating it like a resilient trash can for our rushed meals and start treating it with profound respect. We need to consciously repair that gut-brain connection. So I want to share a super simple 3-minute mindful digestion and gut-brain connection ritual that you can do before every single meal. Step 1. Place your hands gently on your abdomen. Step 2. Take a few deep, intentional breaths. This signals your brain to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, basically shifting you out of fight or flight and into rest and digest mode. Step 3. Visualize sending a warming, soothing energy right down to your stomach. And Step 4. Open yourself to receive your food not just as, calories, but as cosmic vitality.
Look at the stark contrast here. We are completely moving away from that old, frantic way of swallowing food, that mindless refueling habit where we basically treat our bodies like machines at a gas station. Instead, we're embracing a new, highly intentional method. By taking just those 3 minutes to breathe and center ourselves, we elevate every meal into a sacred ritual of nourishment. We're giving our internal alchemical furnace the peace and the blood flow it actually needs to safely transform our food into pure energy.
And hey, what happens when things go wrong? When a stomach ache does strike, our usual reaction is just frustration, right? We resent the pain, or we mindlessly pop a pill to suppress the symptom so we can get right back to rushing around. Actually, scratch that. Let's try a different approach. Next time you feel that ache, place a warm hand over your upper abdomen. Offer that accommodating pouch beneath your chest a silent thank you. Send it unconditional love and offer a really gentle apology for making it carry the heavy burden of your stress.
Because true healing, it doesn't come from just suppressing symptoms. It begins when we actually change the way we live. We've seen today how beautifully and fiercely the stomach fights to nourish us. It balances the intense fires of acid with the wisdom of its protective barriers, all while being so deeply connected to our emotional state. So, I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Will you choose to live slower, to eat more mindfully, and to finally honor the brilliant, sacred wisdom of your body? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Catch you next time!